Welcome in to this edition of Blue Sky Live on the Blue Sky Live, not live. Hopefully, we're telling the truth. We are honest with you here today. A Friday episode as Ole Miss knocks off Arkansas by 3 yesterday in Nashville. Sean Padula hitting the game-winning shot with a couple seconds left. Arkansas's heave bounces off the rim and the backboard, and the Rebels move on to face Auburn today. Is the 5 seed in play for Ole Miss? I don't know. Bracketologists have Ole Miss in that line. We'll go over that. We'll talk about the scene in Nashville. Mr. McCready is in Nashville for Ole Miss and Auburn, there for Ole Miss and Arkansas. Been there for a couple days now. So all that and more coming up on a show brought to you by Blue Sky locations every single day, all throughout the state of Mississippi. You got Sweet Daddy's locations, and if there's a Sweet Daddy's location, you also get catering. You get lunch specials, you get pulled pork, you get side items. You get so many different options there. So take care of your event, your parties, or just simply looking for lunch. That is Blue Sky. Neither one of us are in the Clark Ford studio, but Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900, Highway 25 South. Corey wants to be your car guy, wants to be your truck guy. You also right now can see the car of the week up at rebelgrove.com. Just for being a part of our community, you get the best price possible, a price that's listed nowhere else. That is for a Mercedes GLE this week. So head on over to rebelgrove.com. Give them a call. Take advantage of that. And Neil, all guests appear on the Campbell Clinic hotline.
They do. The Campbell Clinic is the one place for fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions. The pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit campbellclinicoxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111.
So let's get started here. I guess set the scene a little bit. I talked to you yesterday afternoon, laughing a little bit. You went ahead and started writing a win at halftime. Ole Miss was up as many as 13, 15, whatever it was, up 13 with about 2 minutes left in the first half. Arkansas cut it to 8, and then it was a scuffle for the majority of the second half. Arkansas had the lead and the ball with inside a minute left, and then Ole Miss did pull it out. So you got to save your writing that you had done at halftime. It all worked out. It settled for you. So I guess just take me through halftime and the second half of Ole Miss's 83-80 win over the Hogs yesterday.
I mean, Ole Miss dominated the first half. Arkansas looked a little tired, looked a little wobbly on their legs. The big, tall kid, Ivisic, I thought they were going to kill him on the Arkansas bench. My seat was right across the court from the Arkansas bench, and I literally thought that kid was going to have a hard time making it through the game. He basically didn't play in the second half. They just gave up on him. And then in the second half, it just kind of felt like they turned it up. And look, they're a talented team. Everything Chris Beard said yesterday is right. I don't know how much people have been watching. You and I talked about this. I'm jumping around a little. This is a media thing that I can't stand, but it's something that we do. We get us a hot take, and that is the take, and nothing changes. That is the narrative, and by God, we are rigid with it. And Arkansas started 0-5 in the league, and Boogie Flan got hurt, and everybody goes, they suck. Ha, Calipari, the game has passed him by, they suck. That became the hot take narrative. You know, the Jake Cranes of the world and all those kind of people, hot take narrative, that's where we roll, and it becomes the standard for how you judge something. Well, the truth is, they were one of the hotter teams in the league. They had a horrible game at South Carolina, but they won 5 of their last 6. They won 8 of their last 13 in this league. They made it to 8-10. And they beat South Carolina on Wednesday. They didn't play particularly well. I was at that game because I was waiting to write about who Ole Miss would play. And in the second half, they started making shots. They've got a couple of young guys in their backcourt. Names are going to escape me here. Richmond and Wagner, 2 really good young players. And they started making plays. And ironically, Sean Padula was not having one of his better games. Jalen Murray was playing well on the offensive end, but he was starting to turn it over a little bit. Skilled bigs give Ole Miss problems, And Jonas Adu has played really well, the former Tennessee player. He played well yesterday. And Arkansas, to its credit, chipped into the lead and made it a back and forth game starting at about the 10-minute mark. And you just got yourself one hell of a basketball game. Really, both teams showed a lot of resiliency. Ole Miss was down 8. And I thought it was one of the biggest plays in the game. Ole Miss was down 8, and they were in the midst of a failed possession. It was bad. Arkansas had really turned it up defensively. They're long, they're athletic, and they smelled it. And they were right to smell it because I think the game was about to be on their racket. And the offense, the possession got scrambled to the point that with 1 second left on the shot clock, Eduardo Klafke had the basketball up at the top of the key.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a three that went in. It's the first, I think it's the first points he scored in a month and a half.
He doesn't shoot.
And so, yeah, he plays with no confidence offensively. And that was not a confident shot. It just went in. And I thought that settled them because he misses that. Arkansas goes up double digits. Next possession, if that had happened, I think maybe we get maybe it just doesn't work out. But that's not how this works. And Ole Miss got back into it, and then Ole Miss took a 6-point lead. And you said, well, here, Ole Miss is about to put them away. And then Arkansas showed a lot of resilience right there. You just had a March basketball game. Frankly, they had 3 of them in that arena yesterday. 3 of those kinds of games. We've talked about it all year. And Chase, all of those teams passed the eye test. They all look like tournament teams. And, at the end of the day, you mentioned it, Arkansas was up 1 inside of a minute with the ball. And I think Richmond scored to put them up 3. And then I felt for Trevin Brazile yesterday. I know it's going to start all the year Arkansas. Whatever. No, I don't cheer against kids. Trevin Brazile has a horrible last minute. He had a really nice game, and he had a horrible last minute.
15
He
and
commits,
11 in the game.
yeah, he goes double-double, played really well. Had to play a ton of minutes. I bet he played 36 minutes. He fouls Dre Davis on a drive. And right there, the rule on that is if you foul, he can't make the bucket. If you foul him, hammer him. Or let him have the bucket, and you're still up 1 with the ball with inside of, I think Dre scored with like 20 seconds. So
It
you
was
would
20
have
seconds.
had
Yeah.
you would have had the ball up a point, and Ole Miss would have had to foul. Instead, he fouled. Davis got the traditional 3-point play, and then the final. You asked what I was thinking when they missed the travel call on Janelle Davis. I guess the officials thought he'd lost control of the basketball, and that's why they didn't call it. From my angle, there was a lot of bodies in between, and I couldn't completely tell. But I thought he traveled, and then Brazile got the loose ball, and I didn't think he was fouled. A replay showed that he was fouled. So he goes to the free throw line with 7.5. And honestly, what I was thinking at that point, Chase, was, damn it, we're going to have to do one of these officiating things. And I can't, you know me, I hate those shows. And he misses both shots. And it was kind of a scramble off the second miss. And Padula kind of did what shooters do. They just keep shooting. And he knocked it down, and you had a moment. And here's the crazy part. I don't think people fully realize how close Richmond came to making that shot from half court.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he catches backboard and rim.
Backboard and front rim. I mean, and I mean, it missed it. That, and I was perfectly lined up with it. When he let it go, I went, oh my God, that might go. And it almost did. But it was a hell of a game. Big. I think it's a big win for Ole Miss from just a little bit of a confidence standpoint. There's some lessons to be learned. I didn't
It's a
think that was the
neutral
worst
site win against the tournament team. That's tough. I mean, it helped. It helped for next week.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, if I'm Arkansas, I'm not terribly upset because they taken care of their business. Had they lost to South Carolina, if I were them, I'd be scared. But they got that win. They're going to get in. They've got 20 wins. They probably weren't going going to be able to do much about their seed line, and they would have had no legs at all today against Auburn. And at this point, they can't afford an injury. They just can't afford anything. They're playing six guys, shakily playing a seventh, and they couldn't afford Adu or someone to turn an ankle today.
And don't say it can't happen. Cooper Flagg turns an ankle. He's out at least the rest of the ACC tournament for Duke. Duke had another injury. I mean, you don't have a ton of basketball injuries, but they do occur. So, no, getting home probably not the worst thing for Arkansas. And look, I mean, we're recording here at 7:30 right now. I know Ole Miss and Auburn obviously play at noon, so a little shorter show, and we will go more big picture. But just quickly, you mentioned this: three really good basketball games yesterday. Texas helped its tournament case by a ton. They get a win over Texas A&M yesterday, 94-89 in overtime, scoring 21
Double
points
overtime.
yeah, right, 21 points in the overtime periods for the Longhorns yesterday. Kentucky survives 85-84 over Oklahoma yesterday. 1 point win over the Sooners. Fears goes for 28 and the loss for Oklahoma. And then the one little more of a dud game for the day, Missouri eliminates Mississippi State 85-73. That is setting up a SEC quarterfinal day of Ole Miss and Auburn. Auburn favored by 11.5 today. Their first game of the tournament against Ole Miss, coming off two straight losses for the Tigers. You got Texas and Tennessee at 2:30 today. The Longhorns trying to keep their run going, although I think they're probably in decent shape after that one yesterday. Tennessee
Yeah, they're
favored by
in.
9.5 after that one. Florida favored by 8.5 against Missouri today in their first game of the day. That is at 6. And then your nightcap tonight, it will be a crowded arena. Alabama minus 6.5 against the Kentucky Wildcats at give or take
Oh yeah.
8:30, 8:45 tonight.
Thank God it's not me. Um,
No,
go ahead.
I put
So
this on the board. You got four things up, and you were out at 4 o'clock ish.
yeah, no, I was very efficient yesterday. By the way, I was curious about Nets. I got it exactly right. Ole Miss stayed at 27 with the win over Arkansas, who stayed at 39. There was
Okay.
no game control in that game. Texas, by the way, is up to 38, so they jumped three. Texas A&M dropped two from 17 to 19. Missouri went from 20 to 17. Mississippi State fell to 34. You know, the team, if there's a team in the league that could get screwed, it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's the weird one. I agree with you.
They're 47. So if the committee just wants to leave someone out, I think Vanderbilt becomes the poster child.
Because right
Oklahoma
now, 14 teams are in today.
Oklahoma fell from 43 to 44. Arkansas held at 39. State fell to 34. Georgia jumped to 33. Kentucky lost. I mean, won, but dropped from 12 to 13. Bama's 6. Tennessee's 5. Florida's 4. Auburn's 2 today. So, I mean, Ole Miss could lose today by 20 points, and it's not going to impact them at all.
No.
And I think Oklahoma's in. Oklahoma looked like a tournament team.
So
The Sears, the young point guard, is the real deal.
So again, you mentioned this on the board last night. 14 teams as of right now, and you and I both believe that by the time you get to Friday, you're kind of in or out for the most part. Like you're not moving a lot of
Yeah.
seeding, you're not doing much of anything after we get to this quarterfinal round inside the conference tournaments. ESPN did not update the number of teams in on Joe Lenardi's bracketology yesterday. So you're going to see 13 at the bottom on conference breakdown, but it's 14. I counted this morning. I checked to see who was in, and they simply made a error in editing that they did not update from 13 to 14 in this thing. And as I mentioned, three different brackets have updated in the last 12 hours, and all three have Ole Miss on the 5 seed line after yesterday. I kind of thought 6-7 was where they were sitting. They get this win yesterday. Maybe it's some things going on around the country, but Lenardi has them sitting there as the 5 in the Midwest. That is a Denver first round assignment against McNeese State. that would be facing Purdue or Yale in the second round. Houston is the one there. But yeah, just looking at where seeds are falling, 14 teams, and that even creates multiple matchups potentially where SEC teams will be matched up in the round of 32 to get to the 16 straight from matchup standpoints. It is what it is. Like Lenardi has Alabama and Arkansas in the same quad in his bracket in Lexington.
I don't. I don't know how they're going to be able to avoid that if 14 SEC teams make it, or 13 even. If I'm
He
Vanderbilt, I'm
has
packing my bags for Dayton right now.
he has Texas still in Dayton playing Xavier as the one SEC team that is in that. He has Auburn a 1. He has A&M a 3, Missouri a 7, Florida a 1, Kentucky a 3. He has Vanderbilt a 10. He has them completely safe as a 10 right now on ESPN. Alabama 2. Got the Razorbacks as a 10. Illinois is a 6, just from an Ole Miss playing standpoint. Memphis an 8. Tennessee a 2. Oklahoma a 10. And Mississippi State an 8 right now in the bracket. Last four in: San Diego State, Xavier, North Carolina, and Texas. So Texas, the last team in the tournament, and his bracket at the moment. First four out: Indiana, Ohio State, Boise State, and Colorado State. He has Arkansas and Vanderbilt, two of the teams in the last four by category at this point. I thought this was interesting too because you and I were discussing, I guess, all week and even into last week, that conference record is not one of the metrics on their sheets. The selection committee gets these sheets that have all these stats and records and things on them. And our kind of friend through an acquaintance, Mark Giannotto, works for USA Today, was Jeffrey's co-host for a long time. He's got a good story up at USA Today on what is actually on the sheets and what the metrics are. And they are beyond simply just record. And I mean overall record when I say that. The seven metrics that are listed are net, which we know that's NCAA evaluation tool. That is the primary record, even though that's not the only thing that they look at on this sheet that talks about quad 1, 2, 3, 4. We've discussed that. Still to date, Ole Miss only has one loss outside of quad 1, which is a huge deal. That is Mississippi State at home, and State's somewhere in the low 30s, so it's very close to a quad 1, 2. And Auburn obviously play them on home, away, neutral, or Mars. That's a quad 1, so it's not going to matter today. What is happening with that? Ken Palm ranking is on the sheet. They have Ken Palm listed. They use Ken Palm to try to figure out current situations and how a team is doing. It says the purpose of this system is to show how strong a team would be if it played tonight, independent of injuries or emotional factors. Since nobody can see a team play all of its games, the system is designed to give you a snapshot of a team's current level of play based off Ken Palm's percentages and rankings. Basketball Power Index from ESPN is on this sheet. Says that it is way better than it used to by far. It says that it uses preseason rankings early on, but then by this point in by the situation, it's all gone. It's just a matter of what was going on in the season. It takes into account points, possessions, opponent strength, game site, distance each team had to travel, team rest, and whether a game is played at high altitude. That is what
Yeah.
ESPN's BPI tries to do. The Torvik rankings, who a lot of people really believe in, maybe more than everything else, it omits data after a game becomes mathematically decided, meaning a long time ago. It puts heavy weight on recent games, and as a game goes farther in the past, it kind of disappears from the formula a little bit. So it's a little bit of a present day situation. The Kevin Paga index, which I've actually never seen, but the best win possible is worth 1 point. The worst loss, 1 point and in the negative, and a tie is 0-0. They make adjustments based off a bunch of different stuff. ESPN strength of record, which basically means the probability of winning each game based off a team's current BPI rating and how difficult a team's win loss is to achieve. And then the one that I had not heard of, wins above bubble. I think you mentioned this on the board a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Yeah.
it calculates the expected winning percentage for an average bubble team in each game of a schedule. And that is a metric that's really kind to Ole Miss. I pulled that up a second ago because I was curious. And Ole Miss currently in overall bubble rankings, which again, whatever, they rank 12th in the country. So Ole Miss 12th in wins above bubble right now. That is a heavy SEC stat, as Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee are all in the top five. A&M, Kentucky in the top 10, and Ole Miss at 12 right there. Again, in wins above bubble, they are 27th, as you said, in the net. And when I look across their sort of nitty gritty guideline thing, there's just not a bad metric on Ole Miss's resume. I mean, there's really no justification to even get them a 7 at this point when you look at them compared to everybody else.
No, I think they're a 6 or a 5. One of the big metrics that Ole Miss has in its favor is just a very basic one. Their worst loss this season, metrically, is a home loss to Mississippi State. That's it. It's the worst loss. So, I mean, they've lost some games, but that metrically, I'm not talking about emotion or any of that stuff. Just metrically, that's the worst loss. And Mississippi State is, I think, 3 spots out of quad one right now, 3 or 4. They're in the mid 30s. I think I said a minute ago 34. So they dropped to 34. That's a quad 2 loss. It's the only one they've got. Everything else is a quad 1 loss. I mean, we talked about it all year, and it's Greg Sankey tweeted it yesterday, and he's right, and the league's saying it. I think the league's right that, I've heard some coaches say this week. They told I've said this before, but it's true. They told them play a schedule, and everybody did. Even LSU and South Carolina played a schedule, and damn near everybody contributed to that schedule. And so those are all become big wins, and there just aren't many bad losses on people's resumes.
Mark mentioned it in the stream. It is just one hell of a day for college basketball, even outside of the SEC games I mentioned, which you get good games in every spot. But you got Oregon, Michigan State today. That's a top 25 matchup. Wichita State and Memphis is not the worst matchup inside the American today. If you just need something to throw on TV3 at some point. Wisconsin, UCLA, really good game out of the Big Ten today. Marquette plays St. John's today. You got that going on. They're in a Big East semifinal that's on Fox at 5:30. Illinois, Maryland is today in the Big Ten tournament. North Carolina, Duke is today. Duke playing without Flag. ESPN leading their coverage with Duke not a Final Four team without Flag. So obviously his ankle is very important to the NCAA tournament at this point. BYU, Houston, good game today. Out of the Big 12, the Cougars, who Ole Miss beat, they are ranked 17th. They're 24-8, 14-6 in the Big 12. Houston, obviously a 1 seed right now, 19-1 in the Big 12. Purdue and Michigan is today. That's at 8 o'clock tonight. Big 10 Network, a really good game between top 25 teams. Arizona and Texas Tech is today. And then tonight, Louisville survived Stanford in a buzzer beater yesterday. They are facing the Clemson Tigers today. Those are top 15 teams from an AP ranking standpoint. Clemson number 10. They're 18-2 in the ACC. Louisville, who has 4 SEC losses and only 2 ACC losses. We keep talking about that this season. They are going at 8:30 on ESPN. So yeah, if you just want to grab a beer and hang out and watch some sports, today is a damn good day to do it with college basketball. You're gonna get some good stuff, and you're gonna be able to flip around and find close games.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the games here will be great. I mean, I'm not gonna hang out at the arena all day, but if you wanted to, today would be a fun day to do it. I mean, there are interesting games for sure.
You and I discussed it for a minute. So the Wildcats were pulling for the Rebels yesterday.
Yeah, that is a weird thing. I know this is primarily an Ole Miss show, so people like it. It was funny, I guess. That is the Calipari Kentucky thing to witness in person is pretty fascinating. I mean, they hate him, and yet they wanted him to leave. He left. I don't know what it is. And I mean, he's a weird dude. There's no question. Like he's like the thing at the end of the game Wednesday against South Carolina was beyond odd, and then his explanation was even odder. But I don't know. There's a lot of animus from some of them towards him. Now, someone reminded me yesterday that the Kentucky crowd that comes to Nashville is different than the Kentucky crowd in Lexington. This is more of the common man. that's here.
It's I mean it's different. It's a different. I mean it's not this extreme, but it's like when the Alabama fans come to Hoover. They had not seen a baseball game all season, but they came in and they're cheering on the Tide in their football jerseys.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
going, yeah, it's just we're just here at this
They were pretty emotional. They
point.
certainly were for Ole Miss in that game, and as that game came down the stretch, and a lot of people were starting to come into the arena, it got pretty loud in there. It was a hell of an environment. Uh, when I left, Texas and Texas A&M were, I guess, starting to start the second half, and you could hear the crowd in the media room. I mean, it was loud.
Yeah, I'm watching on television, so actually my computer at the time, and I guess I noticed when Ole Miss was coming down for the last shot, there were two things that kind of stuck out in the background. One was Beard just sort of hanging out on the scores table like he was waiting on a beer and a Sunday afternoon picnic. And then there's two Kentucky fans right above sort of the Ole Miss bench, and they've got their blue and white on. And as soon as Padula hits it, they like scream and throw their arms in the air. And it was like, that was kind of odd. Like, it was a really loud celebration there right next to the Ole Miss section. I went, huh, okay. And
But
then
people, you've said this before, and it's true. If you watch a game, unless you're
you
sort
pick
of
a team.
like, you typically pick a team, unless you're sitting in on. Well, I started to say on press row, but never mind.
Never
Um, Jesus, our field, man.
mind.
Um, I mean, my emotions yesterday were simply, I knew I had tempted the journalism gods, and they had struck me down. I was completely in. All right, you win.
But you
But
could have changed it a little bit. It's still been a
oh yeah,
dress
yeah,
rehearsal. They still could have learned something. Like, you know what I mean? That was doable. It was
yeah.
that story, so it was okay.
Well, and I was also reminding myself of, the thing is here, Neil, is in the event that Arkansas wins, no one's reading this anyway. So you could literally write the cat ate the frog, and that would be the end of it. Nobody would ever remember. I mean, the analytics show that today more than ever before. I mean, they read wins. I guess they read wins. I'm not sure they read wins. I'm not sure anybody reads, but they damn sure don't read after a loss. So I could have gotten away with it. But anyway, it was. But there was a lot of emotion in the arena. So, and that was kind of all day. I mean, I think that I think that late game last night. I was not awake. I went to bed 9 o'clock. But that late game last night apparently was quite the thriller.
Um, Beard doesn't like calling timeout. He likes just keeping flow, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that would have been an advantageous time to call timeout because it would have
Yeah,
been 6 seconds or so. You would have
and you
given
get a run
Arkansas
out. Yeah.
you'd have given Arkansas a time to set up, and Arkansas would have focused its defense on Padula. Brazil was still kind of spinning from missing the free throws, and he was a little late coming out to Sean, and so he got a cleaner look in transition than he would have gotten in all likelihood out of an inbounds play.
Hmm. I mean, that's what I was saying. I mean, Beard was just a spectator there.
It's kind of that way. I mean,
He is.
that's just kind of the way he coaches, and he's very, very good at what he does. Very good at what he does. Um, and it's not exactly a dress rehearsal because obviously Auburn hasn't played since Saturday. In the NCAA tournament, you'll have a day off between games. This is a just turn around and play, so it's not exactly the same. But the point that I was trying to make in that column is Arkansas's probably going to be a 10 or an 11. That's going to be the type of team Ole Miss is going to see Thursday or Friday next week. Flawed, but dangerous. Good. A team that's capable of winning games. Arkansas has won 20 games. A team
Hmm.
that is capable of beating good teams. Arkansas went to Kentucky and won. They beat Michigan on a neutral site. They beat Texas twice. Arkansas, teams like that are capable of beating you if you don't play well, if you're not locked in, if you have 8 minutes where you disappear, you can lose. That was kind of the point. And then if you win that game next Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, next Saturday or Sunday, you're not going to play a team like Auburn. You're going to play a team. You're going to play a team in that 2-3 range, probably. Maybe a 4 range. Ole Miss, hell, if they get a 5, I mean, we're having a different conversation, but you're still playing. The point is that you're going to play a better team in all likelihood 2 days later, and you've got to you got to be pretty locked in. And I thought Ole Miss was pretty locked in yesterday. I didn't think that it was as I didn't think Arkansas's comeback was as much about what Ole Miss did wrong as it was those 2 young guards really made some plays. And Ole Miss didn't have anybody to really handle Adu, and he made some big shots. But DJ Wagner and Billy Richmond III both, I thought, played really good basketball for about 12 minutes or so in the second half. And, they Arkansas got some momentum going. It was just a fun game. It just turned into a really fun college basketball game.
Today is your another, as it's become the word of the week. It is a complete free shot. Just enjoy the game, have a beer, chill out, guys. And you're playing Auburn, coming off 2 losses. Your second game in 2 days. Just have fun today. It's all good. You did what you
Yeah,
needed to do. If you even need to do anything, you're good.
I'm interested to see what Auburn looks like today. They've had some internal stuff. Chad Baker Mazzara got ejected from the Alabama game on Saturday. They lost senior day at home. They're going to get a trophy before the game. A lot of times those teams come out a little flat. And if you're Ole Miss, I mean, there's nothing to lose today. Although I just don't think that's Chris Beard's approach. I mean, I don't think we take him seriously enough. I do. I get it. I don't know. It's the narrative thing. We establish narratives, and by God, that is, for Ole Miss, it's happy to be there. Except that's not how they are. That's not how he is. He said, we came here to win the tournament. Next week, he's not going to be happy to be in the NCAA tournament. He's going to try to win it.
No, if Ole Miss gets to if they lose in the round of 32, he's going to be pissed off he didn't make the Sweet 16. He's not going to go, oh, God, we're going to have a parade when we get back because we made the
Oh,
tournament. I mean, like, hell no.
God, no. No, and if they lose in the Sweet 16, he's not going to be happy that they lost in the Sweet 16. I mean, yeah, there will be context in a scenario like that. Where is that a successful season? Of course. It's not what his goal is. At some point, I think you have to listen to someone when they tell you what their goal is, and you have to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to play on the final Monday night. Period. That's it. They're in Nashville, and he wants to win the tournament. Now, if they lose today, it's not the end of the world, and there certainly won't even be spin. I mean, if Ole Miss loses to Auburn today and gets out of it healthy, you can say, hey, there are worse things than getting an extra day or 2 of rest.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about it a little bit yesterday. And I kind of really respected the answer, which was, we don't really know yet whether the grind of this has you battle tested and ready, or does it have you worn out? It's why I don't even know whether I didn't stay for Calipari's press conference. I don't know whether he was asked about rest and stuff, but again, I don't know that they were changing their seed line too much yesterday. I guess they would have gone up a couple of points because they would have beaten the team 12 points higher than them in the net. But as thin as they are, I think rest and avoiding an injury would have mattered. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see next Thursday and Friday, and people should prepare themselves because the national media is cheering against all 14 of them.
Yeah.
They want them all to lose. They hate them. They hate this story. You can already see it. And there's 14 of them, so there's going to be losses. And when they happen, boy, they're going to just get picked apart. And if I'm an SEC fan, and I know this is not how fans are wired, and I'm not one, so I get it, But if I'm an SEC fan, I'm cheering for 14-0 in the first round.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Everybody win. Let's go. It's
I want everybody to
basketball's the
win.
one sport above all else where you are with the people you came to the dance with.
Should be,
Like,
because if they go, like 5-9 in the first round, that's going to subtly be held against them next year.
hmm
If they go 12-2, 13-1, have some of the 11s and 10s win. Georgia wins, Vanderbilt wins, Arkansas wins, Texas wins, Oklahoma wins. Those kinds of wins gonna be a real hard narrative to shoot down next year.
yeah, Fears goes for 31, and Oklahoma knocks off some whatever 6 seed or something, and here you go.
I tell you
Let's
what,
take a real quick.
fears.
Go ahead.
There's some of the freshmen in this league. They're gone. They're one and dones,
hmm
but holy shit, how good they are.
There'll be more
I mean,
next year too.
fears
They'll get some new ones.
fears has fears has stepped up big time.
Yeah, he was huge yesterday in that 1 point loss to Kentucky. Take a quick break. Tell you if you're ready to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor has chef made gourmet meals making eating well easy, dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. So you get fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. They arrive fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab and go snacks, and more add ons. You can reach your goals this year with the ingredients you can trust. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factor podcast. Use code Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. It's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/factor podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. You we got weather coming in. What are you doing? Are you checking out in case today?
So this is where I'm superstitious, right? If I check out, my concern is Kentucky's still in the tournament. And so if I check out, I worry that
You
more
lose the
Kentucky
room.
people are coming in. I definitely lose the room. Where do I have to go tonight? If I don't check out and I get up in the morning, assuming they lose, if I could know the outcome, like know it, I'd make a better decision.
Well, yeah, that's
You know what I mean? I mean, you check out, and then Ole Miss beats Auburn, and suddenly you might be here till Sunday,
and Kentucky
and
beats
that's
Alabama, and you go, ah, hell, okay.
yeah, and then you can't get a room. Man, there will be a lot of Kentucky people who probably bought tickets off the secondary market yesterday or late last night, early this morning, to come down for tonight's game.
A little bit of shift gears for at least 1 second, so people do hear this and they're aware. Ole Miss baseball starts their conference opener against the Arkansas Razorbacks. That's number 3 Arkansas, and they moved game times. Wrote about this yesterday, posted it. You probably guys are aware, but weather coming in, as I mentioned to Neil a second ago, a lot of thunderstorms expected on Saturday and maybe even coming in late tonight. So Ole Miss and Arkansas going at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon for the SEC opener. There's a chance that Saturday's game gets moved to later in the evening or even a Sunday doubleheader. So I think it's kind of where this thing is set up. Nobody's expecting games on Saturday. If you get them, great, but it is what it is, and it's a loaded first week inside the SEC. We're going to do this with every sport. Everybody's damn good, so it is what it is. But I wrote this morning. Ole Miss has been trying to reset to fix its roster to get back to the postseason, and that's the goal. 13 SEC wins is the goal. If you get more than that, great. Then you readjust and talk about whatever that might mean. Maybe 12 is enough this year. Hell, maybe it's 11 is enough. I don't know. You just saw this with basketball where a 6 and 12 is going to get into the NCAA tournament, but it's never happened before, so I'm not going to anticipate that prior to it being played out right now when that happens. But this is the key for Ole Miss. Look, they beat Clemson. That's Clemson's only loss this season. They're 17-1. They beat Arizona. Arizona's 12-4. They're 12-1 since they left Arlington with those 3 losses. They've beaten good teams, and they are better than last year. Is that good enough? I don't know because the league is really good. The league is getting better every year, and I don't know how to put them in relative nature to the SEC. And we're going to find out tonight because it's different. The SEC play is different than a preseason tournament or a first weekend tournament in Arlington, where it's just a different environment. And Ole Miss's roster build of getting older and more mature and handling these things and being more consistent. They got 30 games to show that it worked, and games 1, 2, and 3 will happen against the Razorbacks here. And I don't know. Yeah, I think we've talked about this a good bit. It is one of those deals where they are 14-2, and in some ways they look the part of a team that can easily get back to the postseason. Hunter Elliott gives them a different dynamic. I like the pitching staff for the most part. But then they still sort of have clunkers. Tuesday night, Mike Bianco had foreshadowed that. He told me last weekend that I think I mentioned on the podcast, he was concerned with them looking ahead to Arkansas, with them having their feet on the ground for a road game at South Owl and the first road game since playing in Arlington. And they look like raw hell. They were awful. They had 4 errors. I think they only had 6 total hits. They lose the game by almost double digits. They were down 4-0 in the first inning, 5-0 in the first inning, something like that. And the margins are too small. You can't have stupid errors in SEC play. You just can't. You can't kick balls around. You can't make those mistakes. And they're still doing a little too much of that. It's not the aggressive errors where you kind of go, okay, that's fine. It is what it is. Play hard. It's some dumb stuff. It's average plays. It's fundamentals. And I thought Tuesday, in some ways, was a little bit of a regression, even though it was one midweek game. So we'll see where they stand. They face Zach Root tonight for Arkansas, or this afternoon. He is a left-hander transfer from East Carolina. He is the best pitcher they have faced this season. He is elite with the changeup. He's got a big-time slider cutter that's going to be hell on left-handed batters. They're going to be really disciplined to not chase that on the outside part of the zone. So it's a big challenge for Ole Miss. Arkansas 16-1 on the season to date. Their one loss is to Kansas State. Root's good. They've been a little inconsistent on the mound outside of that. They're a really good team. They're not an elite team as far as everything's just awesome. They're the Arkansas team you've seen several times over the past seasons where they just do everything really well. They're fundamental. They do everything well. They're not going to blow you off the page, but they're a damn good quality baseball team. And that's what we said. Ole Miss gets a chance to show against one of those teams, and then next week you try to take advantage of the really bad team because you're at Missouri, and they are 8-8, and they now have they lost to Binghamton twice over last weekend too, so they suck. They're awful. There for the Tigers. I don't think their AD woke up and was losing sleep over it, but nonetheless, that's where they stand right now. Games this weekend: number 3 Arkansas at number 13 Ole Miss. Ole Miss up to number 13 in D1 baseball's top 25. Number 16, Vanderbilt's at number 25, Auburn. Number 12, Oklahoma is at South Carolina. Missouri is at number 1, LSU. Again, good luck to the Tigers there in that one. Alabama is at Tennessee. Kentucky, that's number 17 against number 19. Kentucky is at number 4, Georgia. Number 7, Florida at number 2, Tennessee, as Mark mentioned in the stream at Lindsey Nelson, and then number 11, Texas, on the road at Mississippi State to open up league play here this evening. So a lot of games. Ole Miss, the only afternoon game. Everybody else 6:30, and then a lot at 7 p.m. at that point.
Hey,
Yeah, go
Chase,
ahead.
real quick, I want to welcome a new advertiser, Lapel's Dry Cleaning, Oxford locals and Ole Miss families. If you need dry cleaning or laundry done right, Lapel's Dry Cleaning has you covered. Proudly serving the Oxford community since 2016, Lapel's takes care of everything from suits and formal dresses to comforters and everyday laundry. Even better, they offer free pickup and delivery to make life easier. Just call 662-638-3149 to be added to their pickup and delivery route, or visit them at 3010 Old Taylor Road, right across from the Mark condominiums. Mention Rebel Grove, and you'll get 50% off your first order. Trust Lapels to keep you looking your best.
Yeah, if you are long time sponsor for a long time. If you're a Blue Delta client, they're the one place in town that Blue Delta recommends you take your jeans to for dry cleaning. They're little lapels, just a little add on there.
Yep.
Did you see was it the Stanford AD that he wants scheduling relegation in the ACC? It's actually not the worst idea in the world. Nobody will go for it, but thought he was it's their head coach, actually, not their AD. Did you see this?
This is basketball or football?
It's basketball. He
Okay.
wants the ACC to take net rankings into account, and if you finish in the top half of the league, the next season, the top half of the league in one season, the next season, he wants you grouped together in one division versus the bottom nine in the other division. And for that top
Okay.
division to play each other twice to try to increase the number of quad one wins and get more teams into the tournament. And if you're in the top one or two at the bottom of that, you fall into the next one the next year, and vice versa can move back up. But he wants to schedule the best teams into more quad ones each season. I
Well,
don't
I
hate it.
mean,
It's
I don't
weird,
hate
and
it.
you got a lot of people say no, but you got to do something. If the SEC is going to be like this, you got to do something. The Big 12, the Big 10, you're fourth, and you're not a close
Oh, and
fourth right now.
you're a distant fourth. No, they absolutely have their meetings are going to. There's going to be some come to Jesus moments in theirs, I would suspect, where people say, "Hey, if we don't change the way we operate, this is going to become common."
He
That league
admits that the
sucks.
Cardinal would be flirting with relegation right now. He's like, "Look, we'd be in it, but
Yeah,
still think it's the move."
that league sucks, man. I mean, it does. This was inevitable. This was you could see this coming a million miles away when you saw the difference in financial balance sheets. You're not going to be You're not going to walk into a Mercedes dealership with Honda money. Nothing against
Mm-hmm.
Honda. Nothing wrong with the Honda, unless you're comparing it to a Mercedes. And that's the problem. They're walking into a they're trying to walk into a Porsche dealership with
A
a little
Camry.
bit of Nissan, a little bit of Camry money. Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, you're and then they're getting on the racetrack with those two cars. And you just unless the person driving the Porsche is just completely inept, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, they're behind the Big East as well. That's a good point. So fifth.
Oh, the interesting thing about NC State and Will Wade is does Will Wade take the NC State job? Or does he wait at McNeese until he gets an SEC job?
Why'd they fire that guy?
I don't know. I
They
don't know
weren't
whether
paying
something
any
happened.
NIL money. He made the tournament 2 years ago. He made the freaking Final Four last year.
Yeah, I don't know the dynamics there at all. Zero.
Not up on the ins and outs of
I am.
NC
I've
State.
never been to Raleigh. One of the places I've never been. Maybe I'll be going there next week.
You didn't want to drive through when you headed to Winston-Salem? You want to go see
I actually
everything?
thought about it. I had a day to kill in Winston Salem, and I thought about it, but I was tired, so I didn't.
Lenardi, just because they have he's the easiest to get to from this. He has four ACC teams in the field. He has nine Big Ten, eight Big 12, and five Big East. Then three Mountain West and two West Coast Conference. Um, last four in includes North Carolina. So the ACC at four, but then that's getting North Carolina in by the skin of its teeth. And they don't have anybody in the first four out. Wake Forest is the next team up for them, and they are the seventh team out right now, which means you're donezo ball game. Because you're still going to have
Yeah,
some bid stealers. I mean, somebody somewhere is going to win. All those one big leagues. Well, I guess that's one big league anyway, though. I mean, how many bid stealers are even available?
I'll be honest. I
I
haven't
mean,
studied it the way I normally
is
would.
McNeese an at large?
No, they won their conference tournament.
Oh, they've already won it. Okay, they're in. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
they
I
won.
didn't know they had already won it. I didn't know if they had a resume to be considered for at large, but I don't think so because they didn't pull one of those upsets this year. I think they lost all the good teams they played.
Yeah,
He just beat up on the conference.
I mean, I think he'll go ahead and take a gig, but he could. He's certainly not in any trouble in Lake Charles, so he could hang on and see what happens. But I don't know. I don't know how much movement there will or won't be in the league this year. My guess is not much. I'm a little intrigued by Texas, just honestly.
What's Indiana going to do?
The what's the guy's name?
Who?
I can't remember. There's a couple of guys that have emerged as leaders there.
Oh, really?
I followed that until it looked like it wasn't going to be Beard, and then I moved on.
Okay. Because they got told no pretty quick by like Dusty May and all those dudes.
Yeah, I mean, again, just because it was once a great basketball job doesn't mean it's guaranteed to always be a great basketball job. And unless you have just a tremendous amount of NIL, yeah, Drake's coach. I can't think of his name.
Okay.
He's 30-3 at Drake this year. They won the conference. They're kind of projected as like a 10 seed.
Little Darling as a 10 seed.
I mean, good coach. I don't. I mean, the Big Ten's very competitive. I don't know where Indiana stacks up in terms of just money. McCollum, yeah.
Who's going to win this thing?
The,
The SEC
the
tournament.
SEC tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I still kind of like Florida.
Okay.
Although, I mean, Florida has some mental scar tissue from this. It's one of the reasons I'm kind of interested today. On one hand, you're like, oh, these are going to be awesome games. And on the other hand, you got some coaches that in the back of their minds probably wouldn't mind getting the hell out of here. That Cooper Flag thing yesterday, if I'm Bruce Pearl, if I'm Todd Golden, if I'm
It scares you
Rick
a little bit.
Barnes, I look at that and go, oh my God. I got to play. The game I play today is nowhere near as important as the game I play next Thursday or Friday. Not even close. Fans love it, and it's a great arena, and this town is perfect for this tournament. It's awesome. Like I'm staying out near Vanderbilt. I've walked. I haven't caught a single Uber the whole week.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and I'm not even downtown. It's great for it, and so the fans love it. But man, I'm telling you, if you know you're a 1 seed or a 2 seed next week, God, there's got to be a part of you. And I know I can almost hear Tyler going, "That's not how competitors think." Blah blah blah. Fine, I get it. Florida's season ended last year in the first half of the SEC championship game when Micah Hangloten broke his leg. That was it. They weren't winning a title, but they probably were getting out of the second round. They didn't get to the second weekend last year, and that fate was sealed on a Sunday early afternoon against Auburn.
Grind says that Matt Norlander reporting Rodney Terry has to make the Sweet 16 to save his job.
That kind of jobs are some things I've heard. And I'll tell you now, Texas might go big splash.
Well, they're going to try. It's Texas. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, they might go big splash.
So you're
Texas,
going to
but
get.
I'll say this: Texas is good enough to make the Sweet 16. They're talented.
And you'll see a piece of that game today after Ole Miss and Auburn finishes. While you're finishing up again, Texas plays Tennessee at 2:30 today. By the way, first two games on ESPN today. It was all SEC Network yesterday. Ole Miss, Auburn, ESPN, Texas, Tennessee, ESPN, Missouri, Florida, SEC Network, Kentucky, Alabama, SEC Network. So first two ESPN, last two SEC Network as they move on here. I don't know. What time are the games tomorrow in the SEC?
Noon and 2 something.
Okay. So early. Okay. Yeah, Mark
Yeah,
keeps saying Bill Self in the stream.
in a world where Ole Miss made it to Sunday, they would have played 4 noon games.
Oh, look at that. Just nooning that bad boy up. As opposed to what I don't know if they still do it. For a while, the SEC tournament drove me mad crazy because their championship game on Sunday, they play at 3. It's like, what are you doing? Play the game earlier.
Yeah.
Why are we waiting around to 3 for the freaking finals? They've already announced the host sites, for God's sake. Bracket's done. Does not matter. So, yeah, I don't think Danny Hurley's leaving UConn for Texas.
I wouldn't think.
No. He can get his statue and he can call it a day there. So selection show 5:30, 6 o'clock on Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, 5:30 Sunday.
Is that what it is? Does that get
Then
leaked typically?
no, it hardly ever leaks.
Okay. 5 o'clock Central is when the show begins.
So I'm sure there will
So
be some sort of press conference Sunday. The women will get a bid. I guess they're in the midst to host.
they are in pretty good shape to host, it seems. Yeah, their net is like 13 or 12 or somewhere in there. They're in pretty good shape to be at home potentially for the first two rounds.
And then we've got spring football that starts Tuesday. So we have a little bit of practice access on Tuesdays. We have interviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays, no practice access on Thursdays, and there's no weekend access.
Correct.
So if you were one of the hangers on that wanted a lot of comprehensive spring football coverage from anyone, it's going to be hard to do, but we will obviously be at all the media ops and
And they
all
are
of those
doing Meet
things.
the Rebels and nothing on a spring game in the stadium. So no games, no spring game. They're doing a Meet the Rebels style format
Yeah,
this season to close.
they're not even doing the 7-on-7 thingy.
No, nothing. Just to Meet the Rebels. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of a lot of sports going on. Again, Ole Miss, Arkansas baseball at Missouri, and then men's, women's football. That's what's going on. So all right, enjoy your games, enjoy your day. We will wrap this for the week. Got another podcast. I saw Brian put some baseball stuff last night with Colin, and then we'll have full coverage at rebelgrove.com from Ole Miss and Auburn, and then whatever else plays out through the weekend. And we'll talk to you again on Monday morning. So take care. Have a good day. Enjoy your Friday. Talk to you later.